So one of the areas where the AE86 is notoriously weak is the drivetrain. Our AE86 project over there is in pieces. It's waiting for some body panels and things to come from Japan so we could start doing some rust repair. The car is a lot more rusty than we originally thought, and the best repair panels come from Japan, so we're waiting for those to arrive, and then it's going to be cut and weld time. But in the meanwhile, let's talk about the drivetrain. Now, we have a lot of A86 experience. Like Howard, our engine builder, um, he was TRD's master engine builder as well as here. He built a lot of rally engines and Formula Atlantic engines, so he has plenty of first-hand experience. But what you didn't know about Howard, he's also an incredible rally driver. Now, Howard used to do SCCA Pro Rally, and he came in second in points in an A86. So he has a lot of experience with the A86 and knows its weak points in the drivetrain, which are sort of numerous. But we're addressing all that right here. Um, Maybe the first thing that, in my experience with the GT3 cars and Howard with the rally cars, is the axles are really weak. Um, Typically, the rally car's in dirt, so it's a different kind of shock load. So Howard told me he used to notice twisting along the axle shaft itself. Um, with the GT3 cars, they're running slicks and everything. I used to notice that the axles used to twist either in the splines or just past the splines. Um, so to address this, we got our friends from Battle Garage, and they procured these panic-made axles. These are heavy-duty axles for the 6.7-inch Toyota rear end. Um, they're made out of some, I don't know, super hard metal. I don't know exactly what it is, but we shot peened the splines on these just to for assurance, and man, the shot peening hardly did anything. So I know this metal is really hard, whatever it is, and I know these work well. A lot of guys that drift with the 6.7-inch rear end use this, and drifting probably puts more load on the rear end than we even dreamed of in rally driving and road racing. Also, Jackie Ding uses this in his GLTC K24 powered 86, and he doesn't have any problems. So we don't think we'll have any problems either. Like I said, in my experience, I see twisting in the splines and in the area just past the splines, and you can see the panic-made axle kind of tapers down. So what I did just for assurance is I subjected this area of the axle to a really severe aircraft shot peening process. They blasted the hell out of it, and the shot hardly did anything. So that lets me know it's a really hard metal. I guess that means it's good. And since that hardly had any effect, I WPC'd this area on top of it, and the WPC kind of made it lustrous, and both shot peening and WPC have the same effect. They put a compressed skin over the surface, and they give it better fatigue strength. Now, I guess it has double trouble. Shot peening tends to go deeper into the metal. WPC has finer grain refinement, and it's more less deep in the metal. But we have both processes here, and I don't think we're going to have any problems with these axles. But we'll find out, and we'll let you know. Our engine's not going to make as much power as the GT3 cars did, but it'll probably be about the same power or maybe a little bit more than Howard's rally car. So stay tuned. I doubt we'll have trouble. People we know that run these don't have any trouble, but there we go. One thing about the 6.7-inch rear end is it is relatively weak. Now, we're running a naturally aspirated 4AG. We're not going to make that much power. And when you're running a low power application, I haven't seen problems with the ring and pinion of the 6.7 braking. if you have a sick turbo engine or something like that, or you beat the crap out of your car, and you have a pretty built NA motor, there's alternatives. Like you can go to um, like an MA40 Supra 7.5-inch rear end. So that is beefier axles, beefier ring and pinion, bigger bearings, and it pretty much bolts right into an 8.6. The trouble with those is they're getting hard to find, and they're much sought after, and you don't have as big of a choice with gear ratios and limited slips and things. Um, but it's a good alternative. I've never heard of anyone breaking one of those, but probably a sick turbo car could. Now, if you have a turbo 4AG or you have a beam swap with big power, like 400 horsepower or more, the best alternative probably is a Ford 8.8-inch rear end. Now, you're never going to break that. The only thing is that it requires some fabrication. You got to shorten the housing and get some custom axles and weld new ears and tabs on the rear end. T3 makes some parts to make the swap easier, and I don't really recommend that unless you do have a big power car. Um, One of the reasons why we're sticking with the 6.7 is the 4AG isn't like what you would call powerful, and you get bigger axles, bigger ring and pinions. You have more rotating weight and more inertia. It makes the car less responsive when you don't have much power and torque. Bigger ring and pinions have more friction, and it eats up the power. Um, so I guess that brings us to the next thing is we're running a 4.5 final drive. Um, this is a genuine Toyota 4.5. The stock ring and pinion is a 4.3. We're not expecting too much problems with strength with the level of engine we have. We did WPC the ring and pinion for less friction. So, like less friction is going to be a big theme here. Like you don't want friction when you don't have much power. So we did for slipperiness. It'll also help durability and it'll also help strength. Just like shot peening, it really helps fatigue strength. So I think that is important. But I think we're going to make this 6.7 work. We got this genuine Toyota ring and pinion from Battle Garage, like the axles. If you're restoring an A86, Battle Garage is a tremendous resource. They have a lot of OEM parts and new old stock, and they also make reproductions of certain things. Without Battle Garage, we'd be having a really hard time doing all this in a sanitary manner. Now, we also bought all the parts to rebuild the differential from Battle Garage. They sell a kit that has all the bearings, backing plates, gaskets, and seals that you need. Even has a new pinion nut, which is pretty important. Just all one kit you can buy. An important thing is we got this billet replacement for the crush collar. We also got this from Battle Garage. If you're using your car really hard, the OEM pinion is the pinion depth and everything is controlled by a crush collar, and this is a kind of a thin metal sleeve that crushes as you torque it down, and that keeps your pinion depth and everything consistent. The trouble is if you're drifting and doing clutch kicks and generally driving hard, the crush sleeve can start to actually crush, and you start getting play in your pinion and the bearings, and then your ring and pinion gets chewed up and kaboom. Well, Battle Garage has this billet piece that replaces the crush sleeve. You set your pinion depth with shims instead of crush, and this won't allow the pinion to move, so it gets rid of one potential problem area. Now, for our axles, we got these ARP extended studs. I really hate running spacers, and I hate running those adapter spacers. So we'll be able to use, if we need to mess with the track, like a nice subcentric spacer, and we have long studs to accommodate it. In my opinion, that's the right way to do it. For limited slip, the stock Toyota limited slip is kind of weak. It doesn't have any wedging device. You're only running on the preload with clutches, and I think you only have 4 clutches per side, so it doesn't really grip that hard. It wears out quick, and then it turns into just about a peg leg. It also has only 2 pinion gears or spider gears, so that's a potential for breakage. We're replacing it with my favorite differential, the OS Geekin. Now, this is my favorite diff. I use it on everything. And the reason why it's my favorite is its tremendous versatility. You can adjust the initial breakaway torque, the ramp of the torque, the lock, I guess the lock ramp, like how it locks up under load. You can adjust the curve, and you can adjust the total amount of lock. Now, this is done through several means. Like the initial breakaway torque is adjusted with these cone springs. OS makes 3 different ones of different thicknesses, and this controls the preload on the clutches. The slope is controlled by this assembly here. Now, this is the pinion gears and this ring device. Now, inside here are some negative springs, and these push against the cam action of the pinion shaft cams. Now, the tension of the springs fights against the camming action of the pinion shafts, and by changing the amount and the tension of these springs, you can set the curve. Now, the curve has a lot to do with how the car maybe turns in, how it is on mid-turn as you're applying power, and maybe how the car, takes a set when you're drifting. So, in a low-powered car like an 8.6, in my opinion, it's better to have kind of a higher initial breakaway torque, but like a gradual torque ramp. And that's how the diff comes from OS. Now, we got a 1.5 way diff. A lot of drifters use a 2-way, but I kind of feel for a mixed-use car like this one, 1.5 way is the way to go. Now, what this means is on acceleration, it has full lock, and on decel, it's half locked. Now, this is controlled by the pinion shaft. The end of the shaft is like a cam that goes into the pressure rings here. And so by the shape of the cam and the slot in the pressure ring, that controls how much the pressure ring gets pushed out when one wheel is traveling a different speed than the other. As you can see, these go into your axles. They go here. And when they turn against each other, that puts force on the the shafts that these things go on, and it wedges them apart, which applies additional tension on the clutches, and you get lock in proportion to the differential in speed that your wheels are turning. So it's a really good setup. It responds to your speed differential, and it locks up really hard. Now, when it comes to the clutches, your OS typically has more clutches than other brands of diffs. This means that your lock can be more positive and the diff runs cooler. Another cool feature is the OS has a forged case, and this allows the case to be thinner, lighter, less rotating weight, and stronger at the same time. Now, with the low power 4AG, we're always fighting, like rotating weight and things like that. So it's a plus. So the OS is lighter than other diffs. One trick we did is, since we're getting new axles and a new diff, is we went to the Koki style. That's the newer AE86. And the Koki has slightly bigger axles here and beefier splines. Now, the Koki and the Zinky aren't compatible, but, since you're changing the diff, we went to a Koki diff and Koki axles to get a little bit of strength. If you want to know more about the OS and how to tune it and the particulars of how it works, I did a really detailed video on tuning the OS and how the internals work. You can check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. So if you want to geek out about the diff, you can watch that whole format. Another thing that's bad about the 86 is it has a T50 transmission. Now this is a Toyota 5-speed. It's probably perfectly adequate, but the trouble is it's hard to get parts for it. And ours was getting kind of crunchy. It didn't shift that great. Synchros are really hard to find. I didn't feel like messing around. But fortunately, SQ Engineering makes a kit so you could upgrade your transmission to a late model Altezza transmission. The Altezza is a IS in Japan. The Altezza is like the IS250 here, except it has a 2-liter Beams engine. Beams is like the 3SG, and it's a modern transmission. The guts are the same as the FRS, the S15, the Miata, and a bunch of other cars that are currently in production. So the parts for the transmission are easy to get. It also has modern synchros. It's a whole lot better transmission. It's also a lot stronger. It's strong enough to handle anything an NA4AG can throw at it and a little more. But it's not an overkill, like a Nissan CD009 would be an overkill. Maybe if you're running a super sick turbo engine, that would be all right. But naturally aspirated 4AG is never even going to come close to hurting this transmission. But the transmission isn't overbuilt, so the rotating weight is reasonable and the internal friction is reasonable. We keep on talking about that. To run this transmission, SQ Engineering, they're an Australian company, makes a really complete kit to adapt it. You have an adapter plate, transmission mounts, shifter relocation kit, and one thing that's really cool is this adapter so you can run a Honda H22 starter. The 4AG starters are hard to find and you can't get them new anymore, and you have to get a rebuilt one. The Honda starter is a starter that's plentiful, cheap, easy to get, and it's gear reduction, so it has a lot of power, spin the heck out of your engine, make it easier to start. These aren't all the parts in the kit. I didn't want to show every single nut and bolt, but the kit's very complete. It comes with every nut, bolt, little piece you can imagine to swap the transmission. The only thing it doesn't have is the drive shaft. The drive shaft is a little controversial in the 4AG community. Now, the drive shaft that comes with this transmission and comes on the 86 is a 2-piece. They say that that is necessary for the swap, and the 1-piece will break the tail shaft off of your transmission. But we're going to be experimenting with a lightweight carbon fiber, big diameter drive shaft. I think this is going to be stiffer and you won't get the whipping, and it'll be simpler and lighter. We have a drive shaft shop just down the street, and they can make custom carbon drive shafts for a pretty reasonable price. So that's what we're going to do. We don't have it yet because we're going to wait till everything is in the car so we know the exact dimensions to make it at. But we're going to run a 1-piece carbon, and we'll let you know how that works. For the rest of the transmission, we didn't mess with it. It's basically stock. We took it apart. The transmission was in great shape. What we did do, though, is WPC every single part of the transmission. Now, we did the WPC treatment, not so much for durability, because this transmission's plenty strong enough, but just for friction reduction because of our wimpy little 4AG. The Altezza transmission is a 6-speed. One trick thing we did is we got a S15 6 gear. Now that's a higher gear. I think it's 7.9 or something. I forget exactly what it is. But with the higher 6, we can get the same top speed as stock running the 4.5 final. So we can get the faster acceleration, but not rev the car in a straight line and not lose any straightaway speed. The 6-speed is close ratio, so that's going to help us with our high revving narrow power band 4AG. The ratio spacings are a lot better than the T50, so I think it's a win-win situation. You know, we WPC'd everything, the shift forks, the shift shafts, the throwout bearing nose, so the throwout bearing will move freely, the bulk rings, the sliders. We even did the synchros. Now, I have never done the synchros before because I always figured you want your synchros to grip, but Izumi at WPC assured me that the transmission would shift better with WPC synchros. So I'm taking his word for it, and we'll let you know how that works. This transmission should shift smooth as butter and, like have the least amount of drag possible. To fit the Altezza transmission into the AE86 chassis, you have to kind of grind down some of the reinforcing ribs here. You can kind of see we totally removed the ribs here and we kind of tapered the ribs off to the side. This doesn't really weaken the transmission, especially for an engine like the 4AG that doesn't make a lot of power, but it gives you all important clearance in the chassis because it is a pretty tight fit. Another thing we did is our case was pretty crusty looking and it had all kinds of white corrosion and was pretty grimy, even though the transmission was pretty cherry inside. So we went over to our friends at Montoon and borrowed their vapor hone machine, and we gave it a good vapor honing. So that left us with a case that looks brand new. You can really see the vapor hone finish. It's kind of like not shiny, but lustrous. It looks like a brand new casting, and fingerprints don't stay in there, and grease doesn't stain it like it would if you like bead blasted it, for instance. So we really like vapor honing for that fresh, like new appearance. So there you have it. Modernizing the drivetrain, strengthening the weak points, not going overkill to keep the rotating weight and the frictional loss low. I think this is going to be pretty cool, and I think it'll hold up well to the power level that our engine's going to generate. So if you like this content, be sure to subscribe. Go to MotoIQ.com, look at all our tech content there. We have a web store. You can buy a lot of the parts that we feature in our videos. So please do that. That helps fund our videos. If you want us to build a motor or do something on your car, you can go to MotoIQ, go to Garage Services and fill out the form, and we'll get back to you. Since we started this YouTube channel, we've had a credible influx of inquiries. Like, we have so many a day that it might take weeks for us to get back to you, but we have to reply to everyone, and that's really time consuming, especially when somebody has a lot of questions. So please bear with us. We're doing our best, and it's great that you have all the interest. So I hope you like our AE86 project. Keep checking it out, and I'll talk to you next time.